Late night store clerks. What is the strangest things that's happened on the job? I work nights at a gas station in a pretty good neighborhood in New Hampshire, so usually it's pretty boring. One night I did have a customer really creep me out. I was just getting ready to close down the store when a little old man came in. He was small and dressed in khakis and a button-down shirt. I made the usual small talk of asking him how his day was going. Then as I was handing him his change, he firmly grabbed my wrist, made direct eye contact with me and said, "Heck is a real place and the devil has already got his hand on you, girl. Be careful." At that point you should have grabbed his wrist and said, "He's got his hand on you too." I worked third shift at a Sheetz. For those of you who don't know, it's a gas station, convenience store, fast food place. On multiple occasions I have been cussed out because we discontinued pickle chips. I've had people tell me to frick off, break things, demand to call corporate, etc. Drunk people love pickle chips. After getting off work late one night, I walked into our local Sheetz just in time for the bar rush. There was an obviously drunk middle-aged woman attempting to drink coffee creamer out of the dispenser. Once she got her fill, she moved over to the sweet end dispenser, put her head under it and started to fill up there too, till an employee escorted her out of the store. I've never been a store clerk, but I was lucky enough to witness the following story. 7-Eleven, circa 1996. A guy walks up to the surly clerk, who seemed to work 25 hours a day, and asks, "Do you sell eggs by the 1/2 dozen?" Clerk: "No, you have to buy a dozen." Guy: "I only need 6. Clerk: "I don't care. You get 12 or you get 0. Without saying another word, the guy walks back to get his dozen eggs, pays, and walks out. Then he throws his 6 unwanted eggs at the store window before driving off. Would be funny if he got home and realized he needed 8 eggs. I work at a deli, and about a half hour from close a woman comes to the counter and just says "Lambone." We had it, so I go to the back freezer, come back to the counter, and her daughter is there. She tells me to cancel the order. Meanwhile her mom is right beside her repeating "Lambone" over and over again. She had dementia and I didn't even notice. In your defense, this is how many people ask where things are. Cheese whiz. 11:30 PM in Auxerre, and on break working till 4 AM in a sort of restaurant fast food store. Last week I saw a woman order 4 burgers but wanted no ingredients other than lettuce, not even any bread. I offered if she would like to just buy the lettuce as a topping and just pay $1 and $20 and $20 and $20 and $20 and $20 and $20 and $20. I worked 11 PM 7 AM shift in an all-night garage for a few months when I was 18. There was this weird Vietnamese dude who drove a white Honda Prelude and always filled up with £6 and 66 pence of petrol. He wore the same pair of cut-offs every time, with blotches and bruises all over his legs, and used to literally wander in, leaning against the displays, pick up as many yogurts as he could carry, pay with a £50 note and stagger out. One time he came in with these 2, obviously prostitute, women who were draped all over him with the biggest pupils I have ever seen. They stood at the counter while I scanned all their yogurts, and he spoke for the first and only time. Staring at me, said to the women she can join us. Can't she? One of the women looked at me and said, "You'll make a lot more money if you come with us, darling." I nervously laughed, took their cash and they left, grinning, in silence. Dang, the Honda Prelude was a sick car though. Even amongst the mad story of a Vietnamese dude and his H trying to solicit you, the Prelude gets a mention. The place I worked had a monitor camera that showed you on it as you walked it. It was like 10 minutes before closing and a guy walks in and just starts rapping into the camera and acting like he's shooting a music video. He went through an entire song. Martin had a dream. A man came in 10 times within a single hour. He kept leaving and coming back without buying a single thing. Finally, on the 10th time he comes up to the counter with a box of tampons. I proceeded to ask him, "Rough night?" To which he responded, "I really don't want to talk about it." I never understood this mentality. It's not like the cashier expects a man to go home and shove them in his butt or something. They probably realize he is just being a good husband, boyfriend, father. Maybe if the wife asks to pick up some lube and butt plugs, or gay pee or something, I could see the hesitation there. Had a guy pull up to the pump, unhooked it wanting post pay, Our policy said not to authorize it between midnight and 5 AM. Prepay only. I announced this to the dude over the loudspeaker. I'm pretty sure he was wasted. He continued to get more and more belligerent. When he started beating the pumps with the nozzle hose, I called the cops. Dude starts banging on the door. Locked. No way he would get in. Can't. Gets frustrated. And finally just whips his deal out and starts swagging it in the general direction of the store. The CCTV is getting all this. So I just start laughing my butt off. Then the cops pull up. And 2 deputies put this poor, drunk, deal wagging man away in the back of a police car. I quit a few months after that. Freaking FDR. Can't stop waving his new deal in people's faces. Aside from the crap covered walls and vomit that you'd expect from a typical gas station, I could say this was the most peculiar. I had a man come in and buy a novelty lighter and some lighter fluid. No biggie. Sometime the next week, police came in and asked for our camera footage the night I sold the lighter and stuff. The guy apparently used that lighter and fluid to kill his 3-month-old baby. Frick people, man. That took an unexpectedly dark turn. I watched a truck pull up to one of our pumps. Guy gets out to pump gas. A Durango comes hauling butt from the back of the building. Another guy gets out with a gun aimed at the first guy. I was on the phone with a friend of mine and said, "Someone just pulled a gun at the pump. I'm going to have to let you go." I called the cops. Turned out the guy pumping gas had robbed a store 3 towns over and the Durango was an undercover cop who had been in pursuit. Another time, a guy came in, walked to the back cooler, got a can of Sprite and came to the register to check out. As I'm ringing him up, one of our local cops walks in, gun drawn, says, "Put your hands on the counter. Put your hands on the counter." Now well, I put my hands on the counter along with the customer because all I'm thinking is, I have no idea what I've done, but I'm very sorry for it. Turned out that guy had been involved with a robbery of a convenience store in the next town. 5 minutes away, had fled in a Mustang with 2 other individuals. They wrecked the car trying to evade the cops. All 3 dispersed. 2 were apprehended pretty quickly, but the 3rd came into the store to either blend in or rob me. I honestly don't know which. After the festivities and them hauling the guy away, the cop told me he had almost lost it when I put my hands on the counter too, and that I should really rethink working closing shifts at my age. I was 19 at the time and I am female. I laughed and was like, "And give up free entertainment." Oh man, I have a good one, but I'm always late to these things so no one will probably read this. I used to work at a gas station in a really small town. There was this old homeless guy with a weird glass eye that would walk around with an uncovered 5-gallon bucket of pickled pig's feet. The pig's feet were submerged in this pink picking juice that would splash all over the dang place when he walked around. Not to mention that during the summer, this bucket would fricking reek. So one of my first days on the job, he came into the gas station to buy a tall boy Bud Ice. I rang him up and he plunged his hand down in the bucket and pulled out a pig's foot in which he slammed on the counter. After a bit of back and forth explaining that pig's feet were not a form of currency, I just gave in and let him have the $2 beer. I paid for it myself. So about once a week, he would walk in, and we would have this pickled pig foot Bud Ice understanding. Other customers in line would lose their freaking minds after seeing this deal go down. I'd throw the pig's feet in the woods out back where the stray cats would eat them. It was a whole ecosystem of freaking weirdness. This went on for about 6 months before I eventually found another job. The guy was insane, but nice as could be. I called him Pigfoot Larry. A lot of the other stories are crazy but pretty expected. I mean, OMG, someone go robbed working overnight at a gas station. That never happens. But this is indeed just strange. Regular male customer living across the street came over with flip-flops and a towel around his waist, dripping wet, grabbed a bar of soap, tossed $5 on the counter, and walked back out. Had 3 girls walk in at about 3 in the morning. I would swear they were 13-15 years old. Black mini skirts, see-through black tops, red bras, red thongs showing. Bought some candy and left. First one is funny, the second one is scary and creepy. I hope I'm not too late to the party here. I used to work the graveyard at a gas station near my place. Pretty normal night. Clean. Stock smokes. Clean again. Sit behind the counter. A woman came in about mid-30s with a little boy with her. She was in tears and her clothes were torn a bit. She came up and asked to use the phone. When she got off without getting an answer, she asked to stay here for a bit. I told her it would be no problem. About 20 minutes goes by and I wound up giving her and her kid free drinks and one of the sandwiches we have on the hot rack. She was in the store for about 30 minutes until her boyfriend came in and found her and her kid. He was pretty calm at first but then started screaming at her and telling her she needs to come with him. Luckily, before anything crazy happened, a cruiser pulls up to the front and 2 cops come in and intervened. He was arrested right there. I guess he had been beating her in front of her kid and she was trying to run away. I'm glad I got to keep her away from harm for at least a little bit. Was a scary night. Beat up kid comes to us at 3 AM. Blood everywhere. Doesn't want us to call an ambulance. Our policy says if they don't want us to, we can't. So he was just chilling there, bleeding. When we said we were going to call the cops to help, he bolted. My bet was he had a warrant out for his arrest, so that's why he didn't want any medical police attention. I worked at a small convenience store in the early 1990s. They had one of those fry delis that had chicken, Jodgers, corn dogs, burritos, etc. This particular night I had run out of burritos and chicken. I also shut the thing down and cleaned it all out about an hour before closing. About 5 minutes before I was closing up, a guy walked in and asked for some burritos. I told him I was out of them and that I was just about to close and the fryer was shut down. He walked around the store for a minute. I assumed he was looking for something else to buy, and then he came up to the counter, pulled out a knife and told me if I didn't cook him some burritos he was going to stab me. I freaked out, but told him I had none to cook. I showed him the freezer and told him I would happily cook anything he wanted from it, but he will see I was out of burritos. He looked in it for a minute, turned to me and said, "You really are out?" I replied, "Yeah." He then put the knife away and left the store. The man didn't love burritos as much as he hates people who lie about burritos. I worked at a 24/7 convenience store. One night I had a customer come in, clearly drunk, and ask where the bathrooms were. I directed him to the bathrooms, which were in the store, but he kept saying, "Oh, okay, they're around the back." "No, they're right there." "Okay, I'll go around back." He left through the front door. I imagined he would just go on the side of the building, so not my problem anymore. Then I look up and he's behind the cash register looking for a toilet. I assume my co-worker left the back door unlocked. I was across the store stocking, so I yelled to my co-worker to get him out. The drunk dude was nice enough about the mix-up and pretended it was just a joke, I guess. Then my co-worker guided him to the actual restrooms. I started stocking near the restrooms to kind of keep an ear on him, and from inside the restroom, I hear, "Ah, frick, I'm peeing everywhere. I'm gonna pee on the sink, the toilet. Frick this hand dryer. I'm just kidding, Clark guy. I'm only peeing in the toilet." The guy came out and laughing so hard he was crying, then left after buying some Funans. He was laughing at himself the whole time on his way out, like he'd just pulled the funniest prank of his life. I mean, that is some funny crap. Back from my days working graveyard shift at a grocery store, let's see what I can remember. Had a former employee come in drunk one night and call the cops on himself for shoplifting because he wanted somewhere to sleep that night. Had an employee come in on a night off, all pee off. Proceeds to walk straight to the back room without a word. About 10 minutes later there was a successive loud pop 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 pop. Turns out he climbed up to the roof to fire off his gun. A customer came up and told me he heard something fall down in the back room. Tons of stoners buying ice cream at 2 AM. M-heads buying Brillo pads and ammonia after 3 AM. Bars closed at 2 AM. So all the cops were usually gone from the area by around 3. Saw a drunk guy fall asleep while his car idled along in the parking lot. Luckily he hit a curb and no damage was done, but the cops got a good laugh out of that one. A tall drunk Russian guy tries to buy beer after the 2 AM legal cutoff time, then proceed to pick on a sober customer half his size. The little guy took one swing and broke the Russian dude's nose. Had a guy come in when another employee was taking a dump. Guy really had to take a crap, so he turned around and took a dump in the urinal, asking the employee on the toilet for toilet paper. M-heads buying Brillo pads and ammonia after 3 AM. Those aren't M-heads. Those are most definitely crackheads. I worked at a 24/7 gas station in a small college town. One night, the club across the street had a fight break out and about 50 people were pepper sprayed by the police when they responded at about 1:30 am. 5 minutes later, 50 angry club goers busting into the store, running to the dairy cooler, dousing themselves in milk and then running back out. I just stood there in utter confusion and then told my boss I didn't want the late shift anymore. Haha, I can totally picture this. Not the same scenario at all, but on the subject of peppers. I sold some guy scorpion peppers the other day at work. As soon as he left, he decides to eat one, then ran over to Subway where they already had a milk waiting for him. Haha. I had a regular customer come in and buy the same exact beer and cigarettes every day. He was always muttering something but I could never make out what he was saying. I really paid close attention one day and he was rambling on about horse racing and the different odds for the horses. He was an interesting character. Also had a guy come in high as frick with his mom and he bought $60 worth of greeting cards. That guy was pretty cool. Huge guy comes in and asks to use the restroom. No big deal. I'm not one to stand in the way of nature. Well, maybe 20 minutes later, guy comes out in huff and says, "Dude, I'm really sorry. I fricked up your toilet. It's all good, man. I'll get it." Not really needing spectators while I cleaned crap. I expect the guy to shrug his shoulders and walk off. Well, he looks back into the back where the restroom is with a look of disgusting concern and says, "Man, it's really coming out. Like it's coming out into the back room." I rush back, thinking I've got to at least stop this from becoming some kind of biohazard event. I round the corner and there's nothing, but I can smell an unholy, overwhelming stench. I continue back, expecting to ruin my shoes at any moment until I reach the men's room. At this point I've had to cover my face with my shirt and focus on breathing through my mouth. But I reach the door with no issue. Frustrated from the mind-numbing odor alone, I push the men's room door open, ready for at least an inch of gas station ducks all over the floor. As the door swings forward, I see nothing but the water filling my eyes and the black-brown human paint the fat bastard left against the back of the bowl. Pee to the point of rushing out, fully intending of asking this rotten butthole what the deal was. I round the corner again to see his big crap-eating grin spread across his face. Stinks, huh? TLDR. Got jigsawed into breathing noxious fumes. Some people get way too cocky about their shoots. You should have squatted and dropped a deuce right in front of him to take him down a peg or two. Not super late, but at the last minute this dude came into Best Buy when I was working in the mobile store. He was tatted up, shaved head, had a Hispanic GF, and he was a pretty nice guy. Made me laugh a bit. I go to grab a phone out of the cabinet and a coworker asked how it was going with the neo-Nazi. I was confused. Apparently he had lots of tells, mostly from his tattoos. I thought my coworker was full of crap until I went back and noticed the small swastika tat on the space between his thumb and first finger. I got a little nervous being non-white, but he was super cool, personable, funny, and had a Hispanic GF for crying out loud. I consider it weird because he was so chill. Best neo-Nazi customer I've ever had. I read on an AMA a while back that lots of white guys join neo-Nazi gangs in prison for protection and they have to get tattoos to seem legit. So maybe that's what was going on. I was just talking to a friend about stuff like this maybe a week ago. For reference, he works 10 PM to 6 AM at a gas station in a really rough neighborhood. Here are some of the things he has told me about. A woman came into the store at 3 AM screaming about her boyfriend being in butthole and refused to leave. Sales literally every night. They found footprints on the toilet seat and a bag of M in the ceiling tiles. A man came in to use the bathroom at midnight. He was still in there half an hour later and so my friend knocked. He didn't respond. Paramedics were called when he was found to be near death from a H overdose. Cops come in on a regular basis looking for people. Drunk people making threats of violence if they don't get more beer. He probably told me more things but I can't remember all of them right now. He makes minimum wage doing this. You couldn't make me do that job even at gunpoint, which would probably happen in that town. Oh crap. I saw a footprint on the toilet seat at work but I assumed some weirdo put his foot up on it to tie his shoe. Now I want to check the ceiling. I worked at Dunkin' Donuts. Every Tuesday night at about 8:45 a guy would come in. A guy in Daisy Dukes and a sequined bikini top. He was balding, had a beer gut and chest hair. He would strut his stuff to the counter and order 2 sprinkled donuts every Tuesday. Graveyard shift at a gas station. Full serve gets shut down after 11 PM because there's only one clerk on site. Traffic cones block the full serve pumps. Signs inform the customer. Around midnight a van pulls up with California plates and peace love signs in the windows. Woman gets out, moves the traffic cones and pulls up to full serve. I use the intercom to tell her that she will have to use self-serve if she wants gas. No answer. I go to the door and try to wave her over or call out to her. Can't see any sign of her. I shrug and go back inside. I'm not allowed to leave the store unattended, so there's not much I can do. 10 minutes later a woman gets out of the van and comes in. I've been waiting for service for over an hour, she says. I decide not to argue about the time elapsed and just say, I'm very sorry ma'am, but we don't offer full serve after 11 o'clock. Perhaps you notice the traffic cones and signs to that effect. You expect to pump my own gas, she says. Again, I'm sorry. I'd be happy to help you, but I can't leave the store unattended. I appreciate your understanding. She snorts and digs a 20 out of her purse and tosses it on the counter. She goes out, moves the van to self-serve, pumps the gas. Then she comes back. May I use your restroom, please, she asks. Absolutely, right back there, I say, relieved. She goes to the restroom and she's in there for about 15 minutes. I start to worry. Finally she comes out and comes to the counter. I know all about you, she says. You're the one brought the Black Plague. You brought it all the time forever. It was always you. You caused all those deaths, all that suffering. Did you like hearing the babies wail and scream? I bet you loved it. All the demons love it. That's you. You're a demon. You are evil. I can tell. And I'll tell you something else. You skunk me up, I'll skunk you back. I stared at her retreating back speechless. She got in her van and drove away. Skunk her up? Because I didn't pump her gas? Weird. I went back to fronting shelves for about 30 seconds before I thought, perhaps I should check the bathroom. I walked back and push open the door. Crap everywhere. On the walls, the floor, the mirror, the sink, all over the toilet lid and the tank. Crap on the door, clearly smeared by hand. And, oh, the stench. As I turned to get the cleaning supplies, I muttered under my breath, you skunked me back all right. Yes, you did. Sigh. I feel like certain bathrooms and businesses should be sealable and able to run a self-clean cycle. Gas stations should totally be one of them. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.